All right, today we have a 1998 Subaru Legacy Outback all-wheel drive. All right, the trans on this is a 4-speed trans. It's called a 4EAT, and this is an all-wheel drive, and this is the all-wheel drive section back here. Of course, the trans, and this is the differential. Okay, so this thing was towed in. Pretty much put this thing in drive. Thing sounded like a bag of rocks. So we get it up in the air, we put it in drive again just to see what's going on, and you can see the axles are bouncing up and down. Doesn't really look good. When we take a closer look, this whole section right here where the axle goes in is broken out from the inside out. So when we see that, again, this is an all-wheel drive. When we see that, the first thing we do is go look at tire sizes, okay? Now normally, when the tire sizes are all the same, I have this stagger gauge that measures tire size. And I have the readings down here. And you just kind of go around the center of the tire and close it tight. And the tires on all-wheel drive need to be within about a half an inch, quarter of an inch actually, of each other to be correct without causing any problems. On this car, like I said, the first thing we did was look at tire size. In the fronts, we had 205 70 15s, and in the back, there were 205 65 17s. I don't remember exactly what the difference was. It might have been a couple inches from the front to the back, and this is why this happened. Again, this is an all-wheel drive, and I can't tell you how important correct tire size is on these all-wheel drives. We do get work in here because of people putting wrong tires on. We've had cars towed in that people blew differentials. We've had cars brought in where transfer cases were blown, transmissions were blown, all because of wrong tire size. And this is the same situation with this. There's wrong tires on this thing. This car was sold. My wholesale account, a few blocks away, does repairs, also sells cars. So when I called him, he says, no, when the car left here, it had all the same tires on it, because I know about that with the all-wheel drives and the same tire size. So apparently, whoever bought the car put 2 new rear tires on, and that's why this had happened. Now, just for a point of information on these Subarus, because again, this is an all-wheel drive, if you look under the hood, sometimes it's by the power distribution center, sometimes it's maybe in the left or right rear corner. There's a little spot for a fuse. You lift the cap up, and if you read on the inside what it says front wheel drive, and there's no fuse in there. If you put like a 20 amp fuse in there, you're actually disabling the all-wheel drive and will just give you front wheel drive. So that's just a point of information. If you ever had an issue with the all-wheel drive, like sometimes these things may chatter on a turn or something like that effect. On these 98s, a lot of times the solenoid goes bad. So as a test, and you drive this thing around, and when you turn the wheel chops, as a test, you can put the fuse in, disable the all-wheel drive, and just have front-wheel drive and see if you still have the same problem. So that's just a point of information I wanted to let you know about. All right, so what I'm going to do is, I have pretty much all the bolts out of this already, because there's really no need for you to watch me take the bolts out. I'm going to pull the differential assembly out, and we're going to look at that on the inside, and I'll give you a close-up shot of this on the outside. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the all-wheel drive section off. I just have 2 bolts holding this in, because the pinion shaft on this trans, this will come off on its own, and then the pinion shaft runs through the whole back, runs through the whole trans, and comes in the back where the transfer gears are. So we're going to have to take a nut off, take this 4 bolts holding the pinion in, and then we can knock that out as well. and I gotta get some tooth counts and order putting a used diff set in. And I'm gonna give the guy the car back. He already knows about the tire issue. So let me get a little closer on this, and we'll pull this transmission. We'll pull the differential apart, and then we got to pull the tail housing apart. Not really going to touch the trans. I drained it out, looked in the pan. The pan looks fairly clean, but sometimes you can take the transmission out as well. Like I said again, we've had issues because of wrong tire size that people blew differentials, people blew transfer cases and transmissions. Sometimes actually all three. Well, let's start taking this apart, and we'll see what this differential looks like when we get it off. All right, so let me get a little closer. I'll be right back. All right, so let's see if we can get this thing out. It's on. You got a couple of dowels here, and there's some, studs from just nuts, not bolts being on, but this usually should come right out. All right, yeah, this thing is shot. It's actually moving because it's broken out here. All right, so I will give you a shot of this here, but close-up shot. But let's continue and take the pinion out. All right, so let's just move this aside and let it drain. All right, so here is the pinion shaft here, and this is all busted up. So I'm going to take these 4 bolts out, and then we're going to swing it around and take the extension housing off. Okay, now we got to, when I separated this, this is actually like the pump of the trans, and it's still held in with 2 nuts right here. The studs go through and they go on, so you don't have to worry about this being separated. So we got the 4 bolts out of the pinion. So now we're going to swing it around. Okay, the speed sensor, which I took out, goes right here. So that's out of the way. And let me just get the 2 bolts out. All right, now we will take the extension housing off. All right, what I did after I took the bolts out, there's sometimes they get stuck on these dowels. So I took a small thin punch and I knocked this dowel through, to get at least out of the tail housing, so it comes out easier. And then this will come right out. All right, what we're doing now is we're going to disconnect the solenoid. This is the transfer clutch solenoid here. That goes bad a lot, causing the when it chatters on the turn. Okay, and here actually is the drum. Let's see if I can just get this out. All right, here's the park gear and stuff, which we can park. We'll put all that back. And this is the all-wheel drive drum. There's the clutches in here. You got a couple of sealing rings here. You got to be careful of when you put all this back together. So we'll move this aside. And on the later model Subarus, the transfer clutch has been moved to inside the unit. Okay, all right, so what we want to do now is we're going to take this big nut off here, and we're going to kind of just hit the shaft, and it should start coming out, and we'll be able to pull it out, and then that's really about it for taking this thing apart. Let me just get set up for that, and I will be back in a moment. Alrighty, so let's take this end nut off here. Okay, this will come right out. Washer. And here's the parking pole, so we'll put that aside and put that back. Okay, so now we just really gotta take this gear off. The only way you can really do that is kind of just tap the center and start, have the pinion start moving out. I mean, this will slide right out if you wanted to take this out. It should slide right out. Okay, now we're going to hit this and push out the pinion. Let me just get... Alright, we can use this one here. Okay. Okay, so let's see what happens here. And it's moving. Yep, sure is. Let's try to stand out of the way here. Okay, this should come out. And now we'll pull the pinion out. Okay, and you have a couple of shims here. You know, the diff that I'm getting, I'm hoping it's going to come with all that, and I'll just put the thing right in, but you do have some shims. There's probably, I guess there's just one of them here. You know, sometimes you can have two, maybe a little more, but this is your pinion shaft here. Yeah, right there is, and again, all because of wrong tire size. So when you have these all-wheel drive, what I recommend actually for all-wheel drive, if you can, rotate the tires on a regular basis. Maybe like every, oil change, every other oil change, so they wear evenly. And when you do need tires on the all-wheel drive, you get all four at once, not 2 and 2. All right, so we're going to push this aside. And we're going to get this back, and I want to give you guys a shot of this diff that's busted up. Let me just get rid of this. Okay. All right, so let me just take the camera off and I'll kind of just show you. Take the camera off the tripod and kind of just show you the, you know, what the diff looks like in a broken case, and that's pretty much about it for taking the final drive section out of the Subaru. So let me do that and I will be right back. Alrighty. Here's actually a busted tooth right here. And this whole thing is loose in here. But you can see this thing is completely shot, and I'll show you guys. You can see it all busted out right in there. It broke from the inside out. So you want to be very, very careful when it comes to tire sizes. You know, we talked to some people about it and they've never heard of it. I've spoken to people that work at tire shops and they've never heard of it. But it's very true. All right, let me just put this back on the tripod. All right, one more thing I just wanted to point out, if anybody ever works on one of these, to make sure that this seal stays in here, or if it happens to come out with the final drive, that it goes back in. This is used for lube. All right, this is a black rubber seal right here, and in the final drive. It goes right here. So I just want to make sure that that seal is in there. I just wanted to point that out. All right, so let me just back out here. So again, 1998 Subaru Legacy Outback all-wheel drive. We found a bad differential, busted up differential due to wrong tire size. So I'm going to order the new used diff, and I will put this all back together on a bench. I'll have the guy put it back in the car and deliver the car back to the wholesaler a few blocks away. All right, so on all-wheel drives, tire size is very, very important, to the point where, you know, we have that measuring device called a stagger gauge to measure tire size. And another thing that I wanted to point out is that even though you may have, like, let's say on this car, okay, you have the 205/70 15s. Let's say that you have in the front two Goodyears 205/70 15, and in the back you might have like Firestone or Bridgestone. Just because the tires are the same size number-wise does not mean they're the same. Okay, but I've had tires that measured out of the allowable range, even though they were the same size. You know, the 205/65 15. But the tires really have to be all the same. They all have to be Goodyears, all have to be Firestones. You can't mix them up because it may not be the same. They're usually not the same, to be honest with you. So on all-wheel drives, I don't recommend doing two tires. I recommend doing all four at once. It's very, very important. And if possible, rotate them on a regular basis so they wear evenly. And then when you are ready for tires, you get all four, and then that's it. All right, guys, so I thank you for watching. I hope this helped. This is pretty important information, especially from the amount of work that we get here because of this problem. And of course, you know, this is going to a wholesaler down the street, but if I'm going to do a transmission or if I'm going to do a differential, the car's not leaving here until the tires are all matched. So even if the guy takes the rims, or if I buy the tires for him, because we have a wholesaler for that. But very, very, very important. Also air pressure. You want the air pressures to be the same. So it's just, you know, something that may be overlooked, but it's very critical when it comes to the all-wheel drives, and a lot of the cars nowadays are all-wheel drives. All right, some cars, I don't think you can rotate the tires. I have a 2011 BMW X6. I can't rotate the tires, but still, you know, I just put, you know, I got, I think 19s on that thing, run flats, and you can't just change two. So my two fronts were bad, so I did them all. That's the way to do it. Alrighty guys, so that's about it for this one. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.